I think there's still a real state of denial, I think, in Number 10 and around the Prime Minister about the nature of, his expulsion from office. He still doesn't really think he did anything wrong. He still dwells on that massive election victory in 2019. And I think his general mood of, why are they getting rid of me, has sort of been underlined by what I think a lot of Tory members feel as well is a pretty uninspiring final two in the leadership contest. I think if the party had gone perhaps for a Kemi Badenoch or a Tom Tugendhat in the final round, there would have been a sort of less of a feel of, my goodness, what have we done, buyer's remorse, etc. But I think that sense is real in the Conservative Party at the moment, and it's feeding this sense in Boris's mind that perhaps he can make a comeback.
And I was going to say Boris Johnson is a keen student of history. Perhaps that's flattering, but he has a very keen sense and intuitive understanding of these great man narratives and these stories from British history. Do you think he's been looking at examples like Churchill and thinking, he did it, why can't I?
Your guess is as good as mine on that front. But of course, I think we both do know that he's often, he's written a book about Churchill. He certainly knows what Churchill has done in his past. And he probably does fancy himself, not least because of the war in Ukraine, which has been, I think, I'm quite a critic of Boris Johnson, but Britain's leadership of the war in Ukraine and what we've done to help Kyiv and Zelensky has been probably the finest thing that the Prime Minister has done since he won that 2019 election. So yes, there's probably a little bit of thinking he can be Churchill in that respect as well.
And obviously, Tim, any comeback Boris Johnson makes or doesn't will depend on three audiences, and you know all of them well: Conservative MPs, Conservative members, and let's not forget the voting public. Just run us through briefly, where do you think he stands in the popularity stakes among those three groups, and whether his position is at all recoverable?
Look, Patrick, I have learned in politics of late not to make too many hard and fast predictions. Funny things keep happening, and I've got so many things wrong. So I wouldn't rule out a comeback, but I think it's unlikely in each of those, amongst each of those three electorates. I think, particularly amongst the MPs, I think there was a sense that government just wasn't working with Boris Johnson. And what I got from ministers quite often was not a complaint that decisions weren't taken by Number 10, but decisions were constantly taken that, went against previous decisions that were taken. That ministers would agree one thing with Downing Street, with Boris Johnson and his advisors, and a little bit like, the last person who sat on him, he would then change it. There was a basic dysfunction in government, as well as the dishonesty that I don't think Tory MPs will ever want to return to. I think Tory members have probably a sense of, my goodness, Boris is better than Rishi or Liz at the moment, or certainly I think a lot of them feel that. But I think if they dwell on recent record for very long, who has put up all the taxes? Why isn't immigration being controlled? Are we really taking advantage of the opportunities of Brexit? I don't think the buyer's remorse will last that long. And as for the electorate at large, the opinion polls were definitely clear. There was a real souring towards Boris Johnson, because I don't think most voters thought the government was really getting to grips with the cost of living crisis, which I don't need to say is the big issue for most people in the country at the moment.